Yo, what up? This is Dave Wood, and wanted to do a message. I've misplaced my little hat, so I had to order a new one the other day. So I'm taking a little bit of a rest from that, anyways. And happy. Hold on, just 1 second here. Hold on, just 1 second here. Hold on, just 1 second here. Happy dawning of the Sabbath. So the Sabbath starts. It's not really actually maybe in the next 30 minutes or something like that. The Sabbath starts at sundown, and it goes from sundown to sundown. Friday night to Saturday night is the Jewish Sabbath. And of course, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So really, from completely taking off a day off of work and writing and everything like that, I actually take Sundays off because I can't afford 2 days off a week. So However, I wanted to say to everybody, happy Shabbat in any case. And today I want to talk about world peace strategies, right? I want to talk about world peace strategies. And so I think that peace is something that everyone seeks, but very few people truly understand. I think that peace is something that everybody wants, but they can't fathom it, nor can they comprehend it. I think that peace is like this idea that people have in their minds, but that there's not really any sort of real, tangible, practical plan to create peace, because all of the parties in the world, of their different opinions, of their different wily tempers, they're divided, are they not? Drink some water. So how can we come together when the nations of the earth don't want us to? How can we come together when everywhere we look around, we've got societies, essentially they're headed towards a gigantic, huge, like, war and collapse. I think everybody knows that this is coming. And I'm not the only one that's talking about this coming. I mean, you got people like Ron Paul talking about it, you got people like my brother who said that he's seen America headed for a civil war for a very long period of time. Hold on a second, I gotta blow my nose. That's disgusting, isn't it? But that snot in my nose is a little distracting. So you have this civil war that is coming, according to many different prophets and many different spiritual teachers. You've got people that are fighting against each other, right? You got people that disagree with each other, and it's like they can never agree on anything. Like, for example, you've got the phenomenon, just the phenomenon itself. And I find this a very hilarious phenomenon in some regards. The phenomenon, excuse me, I got some stuff stuck onto our teeth. I've been relaxing all day, so I didn't prepare for this. I showered once a day a little bit. I've been studying all day. I read like 50 books today. I've been studying and thinking and copying the Torah by hand and all sorts of stuff like this. So I want to share with you some of the things that I've been thinking about, and some of the things that I've learned over the course of the last week or so. But here's the thing. You got, the Republicans and the Democrats, and I mean, the Republicans call them the Dems, and then the Democrats call them the Repubs. They each make fun of each other. Nobody agrees with each other. It's like, but it's not like they just don't agree with each other, because this is fine. This is just news. It's just drama. It's just a bunch of actors. It's that they can't ever just let go of something enough to just create a complete agreement on anything, right? It's got to be us versus them. It's got to be hot versus cold. It's got to be that. And the truth is, I think we're all a little bit lost when we do these things, because we're forgetting to remember the power of each other. We're forgetting to remember the power of each other by not honoring one another and by not realizing that the whole point, for example, of government is to have each other and to be happy, right? That's pretty much the point of government. He said, what's the point of government really? To protect the liberties of the people, to protect the people, to defend the people, to provide a justice system, to provide some sort of environment for legal defense. I mean, the government by its nature must be limited, because anything that is in excess of stringent limitations on government turns into abuse 100% of the time. I think that everybody here agrees with that, right? Government, if government gets out of control, it's like it turns into a monster like overnight. And that's basically what happened. You say, well, how long is overnight for the government? I don't know, maybe 100 years, maybe 10 years. Look what happened from the creature from Jekyll Island, the central banking system, and how it infiltrated society and turned all of society into unknown slaves. Okay? All of society got turned into unknown slaves by this creature from Jekyll Island a little over 100 years ago. Right? So first thing is, in a peaceful and just society, government must be limited. Right? It has to it has to be confined to its own nature. What do I mean by that? Well, anything outside the nature of government is not the realm of government and shouldn't be handled by the government. It should be handled by the people. It should be handled by the systems the people set up. It should be handled by private industry. And there's very, 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 very stringent limitations that we must put on every element and facet of government in order to make that happen. What's that got to do with peace? Anything else ends up stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, stealing from the poor and giving to the rich. It turns into this imbalanced, improper, inappropriate, abusive monster. It turns into like, imagine the beast from Revelation. That's kind of like what it turns into. In the past, before we decided to make it change into something else that sings the songs of freedom. So what are some things that government really shouldn't be involved in whatsoever, right? Well, name something that government's involved in other than the military and other than the national defense and other than and then it's pretty much that. That's just pretty much overstretching the bounds of government, Let me give you a few parts of government that need to go. Entirely, they just need to go, right? The giant, overfat Internal Revenue Service. Look, last I heard, the Internal Revenue Service is like, I've heard this thing about the Internal Revenue Service not even being owned by the federal government or whatever, and I don't know about all that because I don't read I haven't read all that stuff and I haven't done all the research. But conspiracy theorists, I've found the conspiracy theorists are generally pretty accurate with this stuff most of the time, right? So one thing that needs to go entirely, it needs to just be chucked in the toilet. It needs to be like scrunched into a little ball and thrown into the toilet and then burned as it's going down is the IRS. You say, why do you say that? Right? I lost somebody there. They're like scared. No, I'm not talking about like going ballistic and, being somebody that hurts the government or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. Why did I mention that? Because the Internal Revenue Service is an abomination by its nature that disrupts world peace. Because what it does is it gets the entire nation of America focused on, we got to do this next. We got to go work harder. We got to create more income to match up with our ever-increasing pile of debt that we're running around with the chicken with our heads cut off, trying to chase this giant rabbit hole of never-ending loopholes and laws to try to protect the rich from being taxed in any other way than just having a simple tax code, for example. The IRS, The IRS is an abomination of federal government, so it just needs to go. So this is number one. And you say, well, how are we going to keep track of the revenue? Technology-based, people-enforced, technology-tracked and implemented, people-enforced systems will replace all of this stuff within a couple of years. We don't need any of it. The whole thing is just it's off and it's scowampus. It needs to go, right? What's something else that needs to go? The whole banking system, the way that it is now, needs to be kind of slapped around, thinned, sent to the gym, turned into something else, and then get put back to having gold and silver backed currency. Okay? Gold and silver backed currency. Because if we don't have gold and silver backed currency, if we don't have currency that is backed by hard assets, then what happens is the government by its nature ends up just stealing from the people. So the central bankers create a system, and what they did was they made it to where we have to play the game in their system that they just invented from their minds. Now, who has the better way of making money? It's the person who just invented the whole thing in their mind. They invented the whole money system the way that it is now in their minds. That's the person that has the most money, right? And the way that the money system is now is just nothing but satanic nonsense, okay? And the whole thing. Because the whole thing is backed in nothing. The whole thing is built on a foundation of debt and death and destruction. You say, what are you talking about exactly? Well, in order for money to even exist in our current system, number one, a loan has to be made. So in other words, our money system, and I'm not going to explain how the whole thing works right now, okay? Our money system, we don't even have a money system, okay? We don't even have a money system without a loan being made, okay? We don't even have a money system without a loan being made. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that I want you to understand, okay? If you want to have a life that has a good supply of like real assets, you don't want a life where all of your money is based in something that has to be printed from thin air and a loan have to be made in order to make it the whole thing even exist at all. Right? You got to understand that the whole thing has to come out of prosperity in order to make the jungle work properly. See, freedom is like a jungle. What's up, Rich Hazel? Good to see you. Freedom is like a jungle. There's all these people in there, and they're all like there's these monkeys, and they're jumping around from tree to tree to tree to tree. And there's one mango and 3 monkeys. Okay? Now, there's other mangoes in other spots, but I mean, I'm just talking about this one location, this one time. So what happens usually? What happens usually is there's going to be a fight that's going to erupt. And then the strongest of the monkeys is going to get the mango. However, we're humans, and in a proper peaceful society, the same thing would happen. And then the wise man, he would take the mango and he would divide it with his friends, realizing that the whole purpose of having the mango is to have each other and to enjoy it together. Right? So these giant jungle soup concoctions of government that just keep people enslaved basically are systems that are set in place to just rip off society and steal from the poor and give to the rich, essentially. That's essentially what all these systems do. You say, is that really what they do? That's absolutely what they do. They also steal from the rich and give to the richer. They steal from everyone. But really, they steal from the poor and they put the money back. They take the money away from the poor and they give it to the rich, which is the opposite of really how a balanced economy should work. A balanced economy should come from real tangible money systems, first of all, and debt-free economies. Debt-free economies, real tangible money systems, and righteous societies. Righteous societies being societies that honor the laws of their higher power, right? I could name some of those laws, but I don't need to. Just there's laws of the higher power. There's laws of prosperity. So that's what righteousness would be, right? So these giant evil bankers, like a giant leech sitting there on society, they basically are stealing from all of the poor and all of the middle class, and they're lining that money with cash, like a cash suction super supply system into the hands of the rich. That's what the current system is designed to do. It's designed to steal from the poor and give to the rich. The whole thing. I'm not talking about people making money and being prosperous and having their part in a way that's not hurting anybody. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the system itself is broken. So first of all, to have a truly prosperous society that lasts a very long time, that people are free, the first thing that needs to happen is the money supply needs to be like cleaned up from A to Z. The whole thing has got to be redone. The whole thing's got to be reorganized. The whole thing has got to be completely changed. Changed with what? Gold and silver backed currency that has some sort of decentralized core to it. So for example, you could have Bitcoin backing. You could have Bitcoin and real estate backed currency, for example. You could have gold and silver backed currency, something that has some sort of hard, tangible assets and wealth that's attached to it, right? That's going to make it to where people who are in that country, they're not going to be poor, right? So people who are in that country are not going to be poor because you've got something that's like real hard assets. So therefore, because the currency is now based in real, raw, tangible assets, if a poor man has $100 today, in 5 days, the currency flips around a little bit or whatever, it should equal $100. And in 100 years, it should equal $100 or more. The only thing that should happen in a real prosperous society is over a long period of time, if somebody's saving money in a bank account, the value of those saved funds should just increase. That's the only thing that it should do. If it's not increasing or staying level, there's something severely wrong with that economy that's going to cause the disruption of peace over a period of time. So what happens is that when you steal from the rich and give to the poor, the way that they do it is they start it in a way that it's this conniving thing that they do, right? Where they just start at like a 1% little income tax here and there, like they're taking away this little bit and then they're taking away that little bit and they're taking away a little bit more. And it's like, have you ever heard the metaphor of boiling frogs, right? You put some frogs in a bucket, and if you just dump them in a hot water bucket, they just jump right out, and they might get hurt, but they're going to survive. But if you put them in a cool water and then you slowly turn up the heat, the frog won't even notice it's getting boiled alive. And this is a metaphor that the reason, of course, because they're cold-blooded. So So in any case, the frogs, they get boiled alive, right? Why they get boiled alive? They get boiled alive because the same things that's going on in society. Take away one freedom, and they take away another freedom, and they take away another freedom, and they take away another freedom. And actually, the only person that's done a good job at resetting any of this stuff over the course of the last 100 years, in my opinion, has been Donald Trump. Right? Because Donald Trump has just chopped away all this bullshit and created an environment where jobs are up, where freedom is working, where people are creating prosperity, where we have, it's like an economy with a true Midas touch, but it's also headed for a little bit of an implosion. You say, what do I mean? Well, look how much the national debt has increased. So we're still in this economy, and he knows that, and he's got some sort of plan with it and stuff like that, because America can never truly be great again until America is debt-free again. He knows that. I've sent him messages about that. America cannot be truly great again until America is debt-free again, right? So there's this saying. First of all, there's this saying. So debt-free economy. There's a saying in the Torah that says, "If you hearken my law, you will lend to many nations, and you'll borrow from none." No, it will be great again, John. Because we'll pay it off. We got to escape from it. Because if we don't escape from it, there's a big slavery slap coming that nobody can imagine. The evil plans of the elite, the evil plans of the central bankers, the evil plans of the Dems, the evil plans of the Repubs, it's really the Dems, at this point, because the Republicans are doing a great job, but it's really, they're just creating drama. It's an us versus them. It's really the plans of the elites on the Republicans and the Democrat side. Now, he's not, man. Trump is something else, man. Trump's outside of that group, dude. Trump is doing his own thing, but he is one of the elites in the sense that he's very rich, but he's not one of the elites in the sense that he has some evil plan for society. Right? So what'll happen? Well, society, first of all, has been getting pissed off for a very long time. They're fed up. There's people shooting each other in the streets right now. There's wars going on in our own backyard. I mean, we got school shootings going on like all over America right now. Like there's only a few states in America where I think the public school system is even safe at all. And really, I don't think the public school system, the way that it is now, I don't think it's safe at all for kids. I don't think it's safe even one little bit for kids, right? It's the most unsafe thing that is out there for kids that exists, because there's no good enough systems that could just stop some sort of like a kid from just going in there with a bazooka or whatever with the kids, right? So yeah, so here, before Trump and after, there's violence, right? So here's the thing though, the violence is increasing because what? People are getting more and more pissed off. This is the thing that we all got to understand, that hold on, I'm adjusting my legs here, I'm sitting Indian style, right? People are getting more and more pissed off. So when people get pissed off, what they do is they start setting each other at variance. And this is what Jesus said. He says, "I've not come to create peace, but a sword. I've come to set a man at variance against his brother-in-law, against his sister, against his mother and his father," right? And what does that mean? It means like, well, what you do when you set each other at variance is this. It's like most of the time in a relationship that's like, let's say the relationship is like, young, right? It's like a new relationship. What happens when you do something that the other person, you don't do something you do something in a way the other person doesn't like? They just kind of blow up at you, right? They're like, stop that. That's bullshit, right? Then what happens is later on, right, in the relationship, when people kind of get used to each other and they start toning their behavior down, they actually stop doing that with each other. But what the problem is that when people stop doing that with each other, it's actually not a good thing. You say, well, what do you mean it's not a good thing? What happens is that people just turn the emotions inside in the past before they decided to change. And they create this kind of like wave of resentment inside, rather than just telling you, hey, could you just clean the damn forks? You know what I mean? So in the early relationship, they're like, hey, clean the forks. You know, hey, don't put that, no, this is not the space for the forks. I've told you this 100 times, right? And then later in the relationship, because people kind of did this passive aggressive nonsense with each other, they stop being themselves. And then what happens is that their electricity and their emotional energy in the relationship really takes a sinking, right? Because they're not standing up to each other's bullshit anymore. You got to wait. You got to stand up to each other's bullshit. Does this make sense? Right? You got to stand up to the bullshit of society. And so what happens is that society has taught that this, just let the government handle its process, blah, 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 blah. Hold on, I'm going to read this. Yeah, it's agenda, right? So, they're even manipulating hurricanes with HARP. I'll even talk about that here in this video. They're doing all sorts of stuff. They're doing a lot more than that, right? They're doing a lot more than that, I promise you, are the things the government can do right now with technology. You guys have no idea what they can do. And I don't have any idea. Well, I have a pretty good idea what they can do. But not of all the idea of what they can do. But the thing is with this is that when you wake up and you just say, hey, stop it, okay? This is what's happening right now is people are starting to choose sides. Because people, when in the presence of really strong personal power and righteousness, people have to choose sides, right? So what happens right now is in society, people are choosing sides. They're choosing the dark side many times. They're choosing, we got this giant movement in schools of people that don't want to be the sex that they were born. And I mean, I don't know what business that has being in like public schools with kids that are under like 18 years old personally. I have no idea what business that is in being in public schools. I think that that's a massively disrupted, strange phenomenon that society is so weak and pathetic that they can't stand up enough to the bullshit to say, hey, do what you want after you're 18, but not in schools, and don't force that crap on my kids. But what happens is that now that movement is getting really strong, now all the Christians are getting pissed off, right? And now all the Buddhists and all the Mormons and all the people that understand karma, they're all standing up and they're all saying like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. So one side disrupts this side and this side disrupts this other side, right? And so what's this have to do with world peace? The only way that peace can be created is we got to be able to bring the sword first. You got to understand this. The sword of separation and balance, the sword of truth, the sword of piercing to the heart of a matter, right? And that only happens when people stand up to each other, when people set at variance their energy with each other. So setting at variance really comes from, for example, one of the mitzvot in the Torah. Well, really it comes from all of them, but it's to reprove the sinner, right? Yeah, it's biblical, right? Yeah, they're orchestrating in a lot of things to trying to fulfill biblical prophecy. Hey, hold on, I got to get some water. I'm running out of water. Give me a second. Yeah, so yeah, they're orchestrating a lot of this stuff. They're trying to fulfill biblical prophecy. Really, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it get done in some sort of like weird evil way. The evil part of the big biblical prophecy, right? The reality is that the biblical prophecy is going to happen regardless of whether they are a part of fulfilling it or whether they're not a part of fulfilling it. It's going to happen because these are the things that the prophets and the saints have written for thousands of years. And there's so much consciousness and so much, even if you don't believe in that, there's so much consciousness and there's so much faith put into these things happening that of course they're going to manifest just like they are written, because there's so much faith in them from so many people. There's 2 billion people having faith in these things. So of course, all these things are going to manifest. If you understand quantum manifestation and you understand karma and you understand that the society really has some dark karma going on, right? So the first thing is standing up to bullshit. You know, like we used to do F the bullshit, right? At the Empower Network events, right? So this is the first thing to creating world peace is actually understanding that we got to get like viciously together and focused and unified in one direction on standing up to nonsense, reproving the sinner. This is actually where this comes from biblically, right? Yeah, they're doing the things behind the scenes that are not going to be on social media, etc. This is from Following God and for Eve, right? And only if you are conscious. Thanks, John Belcher Station. People watching TV all day like fools, right? And people are on social media, right? So people are on social media, and what aren't they doing? A lot of times they're not even talking to each other. This is actually the only problem that I've got with social media. I don't have a problem with social media in general because I think social media is one of the greatest freedom things that exists because we can share a message. But, you know, the other day, I'm going to just share a story that I find was hilarious, right? So I'm walking out. It's like 10 o'clock at night, right? It's outside 10 o'clock at night, and there's this huge fat lady walking by a swimming pool, just on her phone, chatting on Facebook with her thumbs, you know? And I'm just imagining this lady like with maybe she's got a fake photo of herself looking skinny on a dating site or something like that. I'm just making stuff up in my mind. But the thing is that I thought was really funny about this, right? Is that there's somebody walking right next to her that really could have some stuff that like that could offer I could offer real friendship to anybody around. I don't care what their background is. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what their color, their skin is, right? I care that they're a human being, and I care that they love people, obviously, and there's some things that I care about. But the thing is that I care fundamentally about them. And so this person is like, they're on social media and they can't be social anymore because they're just so focused on the media, right? This is not how good social media people are. Good social media people, like my friend Darren, for example, you know, he talks to people on the phone, right? He talks to people on the phone. That guy does, right? Like he talks to people, he connects with people, he does masterminds with people, he meets with people one-on-one. He has high ticket clients that pay him like upfront and then, you know, fly out to wherever he's at. He's got this giant thing that he's working on right now, you know. So there's people that know how to do social media right. But I'm talking about like people, they're so caught up in social media that they don't even say hi to people outside anymore. Like people are a little bit, sometimes they're taken aback by me or something like that because you know, they're taken aback by me. And why is this? Well, it's like I just walk around saying hello to people like I'm a caveman, right? And people love me like wherever I go right now. I'm so much more social than I used to be when I'm walking around talking to people. Like I'm a million times more social than I've ever been in my life. And I just go around and I say, hello, hey, you look fantastic. By the way, I haven't seen a tie that looks that good all day. You know, and I mean everything that I say, right? So I just walk around. I literally I compliment people from the beginning of the day, right? We have to be aware of the principalities and rulers of this world that sit in high places. We do, right? We have to be aware of them, right? We have to be aware of them. And we gotta like slap people to wake up, you know, and just say, hey, it's time to wake up. It's time to do something. It's time to unify. It's time to bring the peoples of the world together. It's time to cast a vision into people and speak life into people and speak. So the next thing is that there's got to be vision to create peace. There's got to be vision, and it's really got to be prophetic vision. Okay, what do you mean by that? Well, prophetic vision is what it referred to in the book of Proverbs when it says, where there's no vision, the people perish. But what's it actually say? It's actually the Hebrew root word there for vision that's translated as vision in English, because that's an easier way to explain it. Where there's no vision, the people perish, is where there's no revelation, the people perish. Right? Where there's no revelation, where there's no prophetic revelation, the people perish. Right? Yeah, people think deception are only in the churches and so-called Bible. There's deception everywhere, right? Where there's no revelation, the people perish. And what's that mean? Where there's no direct communication from God through the Holy Spirit to a people, right? Through their prophetic servants, through you, so you're a prophetic servant for who? For example, your family. You're a prophetic servant for who? For example, your church. You're a prophetic servant for your higher power, right? Where there's no revelation, the people perish. The people perish because there's no revelation. Where there's no revelation, the people perish, right? So in order to really set a society straight, there has to be revelation. The next thing is to really set a society and create peace. Now that we awaken people up, now that we're standing up to nonsense, now that we're fighting for our rights, right? Now we understand because we bring the sword, there can be peace. Does that make sense? The sword is the sword of truth. The sword is the sword of righteousness. The sword is like cutting asunder the joints and marrow of the biology and of the nonsense and of the bullshit that's there, right? Yeah, like the Van shirt. Yeah, thank you. I like this shirt too. It's an old shirt, I think. Right? So in any case, now that we're standing up, and now that we are unifying together now that we're deciding to work together now that we're saying, hey, how can we help? Now that we're saying, hey, how can we, what is time? It's time for what? Enlightenment. A society, I had somebody the other day, who, I was talking about, something to do with the Hebrew Israelites, which is this weird group of people that, were once righteous that fell, that, are really under control, in my opinion, of the enemy. I'm not going to talk about that here in particular, but I was doing this video, and then this guy in the comments, he says, David, can you please stop talking about opening chakras? These things that are not mentioned in the Bible are not from God, right? And hold on a second. So I just read today. I just sped read today entire Zohar, right? Which is I can't remember what year that was written down or whatever, like 1000 AD or something. It was the Zohar is like a very complex mystical spiritual work that essentially it's the mystical side of Judaism that comes from the Torah. And there's nothing in the Bible that says that chakras and enlightenment is bad. Actually, the New Testament, just the only thing it says about enlightenment is it's impossible for those that were once enlightened. And yeah, shrooms would be good, right? Your mind can handle it, right? Shrooms are fantastic. I've only been drugged by shrooms. I've never taken shrooms voluntarily. But I got a friend that's utilizing shrooms and plant medicine right now, and he's doing like 3,000 body reps a day in weight with movement, and it like looks like a freaking superhero right now. And we're putting on a super soldiers event that is that I'll promote it once I get my other stuff going a little bit. I got to focus on my own thing here for a little bit and get my thing going. And then once my thing's going, I'm going to promote this as well. But that had nothing to do with it. Anyways, enlightenment. So enlightenment is this person's like the chakras. And it's like, we need to grow up from this childish thinking that says that, for example, if you're Christian, the only thing in existence is the Bible. The Bible never says anything like this. Okay. The Quran never says anything about that, about the Quran either, right? The Quran teaches you, for example, to honor all of the prophets. The Bible says, "A prophet will the Lord your God raise up like unto me, and him shall ye hear in all things whatsoever he shall say unto you." Right? The Bible never says that there's not going to be any more prophets. It never says that in a single area, and people misinterpret all sorts of things left and right for saying that. But the reality is that it doesn't expressly ever say anything whatsoever that remotely means anything like that. People misinterpret saying at the end of Revelation where it says, if any man adds to these things, God will add to him the plagues that are written in the book. If any man takes away from these things, he'll take away his portion out of the book of life, right? But that's also said in Deuteronomy. So in Deuteronomy, God also says that about the Torah. So right after Deuteronomy, what's written? Joshua, right? So how do you have a prophet, Joshua, with new revelation right after Deuteronomy says, don't add to or take away? It's because that saying doesn't mean there can't be more revelation. Doesn't mean there can't be additional strategies, okay? So revelation from God is additional strategies about how to manage your life and what's coming in the future, right? And it's okay for, the best way to train yourself to receive revelation that comes from enlightenment, for example, is Torah. So, for example, what I do is, you see this is me writing a section of the Torah. I write it with my right hand, and I trace over it with my left usually, and then I write the next section with my left, and then I trace over it with my right, right? Sometimes I write it forwards, and then I trace over it backwards, right? And then what I do is I write my own revelation, modeling the language of the Torah for that area of my life. So, for example, you could say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, right? So you could say, in the beginning, God created the business of prosperity that's manifesting into my life now, right? So you learn how to move in this linguistic models of prophecy over different areas of your life. And this is how you learn how to bring real Holy Spirit-filled revelation into your life for things, is by modeling it. And this actually comes from Deuteronomy 28:9, I think, is where it is, where God says to walk in his ways, and which is another way of saying model him, right? So you model him in everything that he does. And if he speaks something in a certain way, then you speak it. You learn to speak in that same way. Does that make sense? Now we're getting somewhere. But enlightenment, what's enlightenment? Well, here's the thing. Somebody can only say that enlightenment isn't real until their crown chakra opens, right? That's the only, that is the limitation on, they can no longer say that enlightenment isn't real. Because when their crown chakra opens, right, their brain perceives beyond the universe. So what happens is that, and really it perceives from the whole universe in a totally different way. And really their brain is doing that all the time, but they can't see it. So a person will sit there and they'll say, oh, that side is wrong and this side is right. But then what happens is when, John Belcher Station. John, I don't know how long you've been following me. I'm the Messiah David. So what happened was, let me explain it. What happened was that May 20th, 2017, my crown chakra opened. And then I remembered the universe. Yeah, you said you never used to talk about God and Ian. What made you so passionate about spirituality and Yahweh? Was it a single event? It was my enlightenment. So there's two messiahs. There's me and the Savior Jesus, right? I'm not the Savior. So in any case, so people, here's the thing. Somebody can only say that the chakras don't exist until their crown chakra opens. And then it doesn't matter if they're Christian. It doesn't matter if they're Buddhist. It doesn't matter if they're Islamic. It always matters. But it doesn't matter what their belief system is. They know that the chakras exist after that point because they can see them. So you can only say these things don't exist until you can see them. And then once you can see them, and when you can manipulate them, and when you can manipulate space-time with your imagination, like I can, like I've gone backwards in time 90 minutes. You know what I mean? And I know lots of other people that have gone backwards in time. I had a friend that got on a plane from the Philippines to Canada, right? That he got on the plane and it was one time, and then he got back to Canada the previous day. I'm not the only person. He's enlightened too, this guy. So I'm not the only person that's experienced time dilation, time reorganization, all sorts of stuff like this, right? So somebody can only say this stuff doesn't exist, right? Until their crown chakra opens and they become one with the universe. And then they enter nirvana. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, maybe Jesus went and studied with the Buddhists too during that 18-year period in the Bible where nobody knew what he did. It says he increased in wisdom and stature. What did he do? He probably went and he probably studied with various spiritual teachers of all faiths and all spiritualities because he's Jesus, right? So the Bible doesn't say anything negative about enlightenment whatsoever, right? So in any case, so what's this got to do with creating world peace? Let's get back into peace strategies here. What's this got to do with world peace? What's this got to do with world peace is actually really simple. World peace is created from people unifying behind a oneness-based idea that comes from truth. World peace is not going to be able to be created in any other way. It's not going to be able to create it in any other way. We got to have a oneness-based strategy that comes from truth. Because first of all, if it's not a oneness-based strategy, you're going to get things that are going to piss off one side or the other, and they're not going to be able to come together. Okay? So we got to be able to come together. How do we do that? Well, for example, let me talk about the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats want control. The Republicans just want freedom. Now, here's the thing. The Democrats, their strategies of control are all broken. But is the idea of control, not all their strategies are broken, but is the idea of control itself a bad thing for society? Not at all, right? We got to be thinking about things we got to be thinking like, for example, when I'm president of the United States, right, we'll build things in a way where everything that we do will work 1,000,000 years from now. It'll work 1,000,000,000 years from now. It'll work eternally. That's how solid and bulletproof the systems that we build have to be. Because we got to learn to think different. The population's exponentially expanding. I mean, how are we going to manage resources? How are we going to do this stuff? But we can't do it in a way that the government's controlling everything. So, for example, you have control. Real control is feminine. Freedom is masculine, right? So freedom is masculine, control is feminine. I think everybody here would agree with that in some manner. Freedom is also, freedom is really masculine. It really is masculine energy. People are like, why is she so controlling? It's because she's a woman, right? So freedom is masculine, control is feminine. So feminine control systems done through technology, implemented and tracked by the people rather than the government, would allow, for example, control systems in the simultaneous presence of freedom through technology, right? There's nothing wrong with this. This is a oneness-based strategy. You're giving both people what they want. What's another example of giving people what they want? I'm going to get ready for something controversial. Now, I want you to stick with me here for a second, okay? Because you guys are going to people get all wigged out by this, right? Because I'm a friend of Islam too, okay? So I don't know if it's the Quran or in the sayings of Muhammad. Muhammad taught that, if you're a Jew, you should get a Star of David tattoo on your heart and walk on the other side of the street. Okay. Now, most people, they hear that and they're like, it's anti-Semitic, right? Oh, hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, much more you got to help me get?
Yeah. Hold on. Guys, I'm going to be back on this video.
I'll just get it. Just keep talking.
You get it? Okay. Yeah, cool. Love you, brother. So most people will hear that and they're like, that's anti-Semitic. Okay, it's anti-Semitic. However, what I hear is, I hear like a cry for peace. You got a group of people that likes to kill the other group of people, and another group of people that likes to just keep them at bay. Kind of how it works. So maybe if the Jewish people just got a Star of David tattoo on their heart, with some way that didn't violate the Torah, like a henna tattoo or something, and walked on the other side of the street, maybe Islam would be happy and leave them alone. Oneness-based strategy. Is it against the Torah to get a henna tattoo of the Star of David on your heart? No, not at all. My point is with this is that, do you have to do that? No, you don't have to do that. My point is with all of it is that when you're thinking about other people and you're thinking about how to get things done and you're thinking about how to work together now and you're thinking about how to bring the people together and you're thinking about how to bring nations together and you're thinking about how to bring peace strategies together and you're thinking about how to love each other, then where do things end up? All of a sudden, you start working together. All of a sudden, you start coming up with things that are benefiting each other. All of a sudden, you start producing strategies that lead to the peace of nations, the peace of stories, the peace of worlds, the peace of families. All of a sudden, families start being restored. Why? Well, it's like most people, they look at something and they're in a relationship and they're like, okay, this person's asking this and I don't want that, I want this. What's a better way to do it? A better way to do it, very simply put, is strategic balance between what they want and between what you want. Strategic balance. If you're a man, you should never let a woman get too much control over you. Let her control your energy. Right? And if you're a woman, right, you should never let a man push your personality into a corner. Right? You should always be yourself. When he pushes your personality in a corner, you come out like a Batwoman. You know what I mean? What happens when people's personalities get weak is they stop being themselves. And what happens when people stop being themselves is they stop standing up to bullshit. And what happens when people stop standing up to bullshit is the people no longer build righteous societies. And when people no longer build righteous societies, what happens is that diseases fill the land. The Torah promises that if we honor the law, God says, I will utterly abolish disease from the land. That's if we honor Torah. First 5 books of Moses. Right? Right? First 5 books of Moses, God says, I will utterly abolish disease from the land. How many Christians out there are there? And how many Jews are there out there that are trying to find a cure for diseases that cannot be cured in any other way but the righteousness of Torah? What's up, brother?
So,
I'm almost done.
okay.
Right? So how many people, it's like, okay, we want to cure it by taking more supplements. We want to cure it by, going to the doctors more and give us more pills. We want to cure it by more TV. We want to cure it by more books. We want to cure it by blah, 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 where God says, if ye honor my law, I will utterly abolish disease from the land. Right? That's powerful, isn't it? Yeah. Cancer, genetic disease, viruses, HIV, all this bullshit cannot stand in the presence of the law. How many people, they try to cure sexual transmitted diseases in any other way but stopping having sex outside of marriage? And like natural relationship systems, right? That come from the patriarchs, which are all things that protect women. How many diseases does society need to get before they realize that if they honor the law, God says he'll utterly abolish disease from the land? Anyways, I'm done. I'm going to hang out with my brother. I appreciate y'all. Thanks, Ron. I hope this helped you understand how to create peace. You got to bring people together, stand up to wickedness, and honor the 613 mitzvah. And you're just starting to tell the story.
Your refrigerator went off.